We'd love to know everything about his look in Fighter.
We started that process online to begin with to really focus on putting on a little bit of size, not too much, because he's got very full muscle bellies, which give him a little bit more of a three-dimensional look on screen. But we also knew that he couldn't be too big because in the Air Force, you have to have mobility and agility, be able to move quickly. So we didn't want him too big and bulky and too muscular. I've dealt with a lot of clients, hundreds of clients, some professional athletes. I've never encountered a client that has succumbed to so many injuries as Hrithik.
Tell us, what is his regime like?
So generally the day would start early in the morning, dependent on what time he finished the day prior, and he'd have his breakfast, let that settle, and then about an hour to 90 minutes following that, he'd start his workout, and that would be a weights workout.
What about cheat days?
No cheat days.
Does Hrithik Roshan work out on his own movie playlist?
Oh, the music? Oh, for sure. 100%. Hello, everybody. This is Kris Gethin, and you're watching me on Bollywood Hungama.
Hi guys, welcome to Bollywood Hungama. My name is Urmin. We all associate Hrithik Roshan with the Greek god, but the man who's created his transformation time and again, and especially with the recent film Fighter, I have celebrity fitness instructor Kris Gethin. How are you doing, Kris?
I'm great. Thank you very much for having me
So
here.
good to see you.
Good to see you too.
What was your morning like? Big
Morning, it was an early morning. Trained my client, Vicky, Kaushal at the moment, and I got a lot of work overseas in the US, so because of the time difference, it's usually waking up to a bombardment of work, but of course I got to get my own workout in first, so that's what came first, and then the work came second.
That is great. In fact, since you spoke about Vicky Kaushal, quite recently you had quoted that apart from Hrithik Roshan, he's another very, very dedicated celebrity who takes his workouts very seriously. Is that true?
He takes everything seriously, like his work, his workouts. You know, I'd like him to take his sleep a little bit more seriously so he could get more Zeds. But the guy is very, very dedicated. And even though he's on little sleep because of the shoot schedule and the workouts and the cardio, he has not complained once. And if anything, it's me complaining, saying, slow down a little, dude.
Ooh. I think that's something that everyone wants.
yeah, I guess that's a high achiever.
Yeah.
You know?
Now tell us about this really long association that you've had. It's a very special bond, a friendship that you've had with Hrithik Roshan. Do you remember when was the first time you met him?
Yeah, I remember the first time I met him was at his home, not the home that he lives in right now. This is going back in 2011, because I'd come over here to do a book launch. I'd just finished a book that I'd published. And, I got a phone call when I was in a supermarket. I was back in the UK at that time, saying this guy, Hrithik Roshan, wants to transform. I'd never really heard of him.
Okay.
But then when I met him for the first time, probably about a month after that phone call that I spoke to Hrithik, it was very special. I told him that I'm kind of a no-bull character. I don't take any excuses or justifications for excuses, only commitments. And he was fully committed. And I could tell that he was very smart, very intuitive. And I figured that together, providing that he puts as much into the relationship that I do, then it'll flourish. And it certainly did.
So this was back in what, 2009?
2011.
2011.
Yeah.
We've seen some of the best Hrithik Roshan films then, and you said that you had no idea who he was, right?
I had no idea who he was. Obviously when I came over here, I could see, wow, this guy is like a Greek god. But I guess I don't really take too much notice of what's going on in the world, and that was just a part of the world that I was, completely oblivious to.
So while you started working with him, what's this one quality that sets him apart? And I love that the word transformation is always used with every film that he does, because every film he looks different and he looks younger than he was earlier. So what's this one rare quality that you found in him?
I'd say the rare quality is just that he is so intuitive to his own body and what will work on a certain day over others. Some days he knows full well that the body is just not able to put up with the stress and load of work commitments and the training commitments. So instead of saying, hey, I'm going to take a day off, we will work around those issues. And he's very intuitive to say, you know what, today we're not going to try to hit any personal bests, or we're not going to train with free weights. Let's go maybe something a little bit more intense, less rest periods, more machines, more cables, and navigate the way forward as opposed to taking steps back. And he's very intuitive like that. Makes my job much easier. I just put out the plan, and it's like a living document between both of us, so we can change and navigate as needed.
We'd love to know everything about his look in Fighter. When did this journey start on creating Hrithik to look so amazing in this film?
It's probably started about, from what I can recall back, because going back a while now, it's probably about 6 months prior.
All right.
5 or 6 months prior to that. So I train the vast majority of my clients all online,
Okay.
but it's only occasionally will I come to train them in person when they have these topless scenes or body shots or anything like that, so I can see them in person and manipulate as needed, because what you see on a picture can be very different to what you see in real life. So it's usually then I will come in. And we started that process online to begin with, to really focus on putting on a little bit of size, not too much, because he's got very full muscle bellies, which give him a little bit more of a three-dimensional look on screen. But we also knew that he couldn't be too big, because in the Air Force, you have to have mobility and agility, be able to move quickly. So we didn't want him too big and bulky and too muscular. But in all honesty, I didn't even know if his physique would be able to get that big and muscular, because, you know, he is 50 years old now. But the great thing about Hrithik is that he has focused on his health span and his health more than anything. So his body was able to change and adapt as it did like 12, 13 years ago. Yeah. It's like the body hadn't aged in that sense, and it responded very, very well. But I think that's because he's prioritized his health over aesthetics. And when you do so and you prioritize the health, the aesthetics come very easily. I'm not saying it was easy for him. It was hard, because you know, you can't eat any bad food for months on end. And it's very difficult to a lot of people, you know, because a lot of people say, just that one bite. It's a celebration. It's a birthday. It's a holiday. Just that one bite. But he didn't take those one bites. He was dedicated. So we see someone like Hrithik's physique in Fighter and we think, God, that came easy. The only reason why it looks easy and it looks like it came easy is because he put in the hard work so he could make it look easy. And I think, you know, much like your performance is dictated by how much recovery you have, his performance has been dictated by how much preparation he put in prior. So all he had to do was worry about the acting.
Yeah.
Because he'd put in all the hard yards not to stress about the angle of his physique. Under any lighting and under any angle, his physique was going to look great.
And this after him going through various injuries on his body that we've heard about, so many that he's been open about. So were there any restrictions when it came to his workout?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I have to say this, hand on my heart. I've dealt with a lot of clients, hundreds of clients, some professional athletes. I've never encountered a client that has succumbed to so many injuries as Hrithik. So many injuries. And I honestly think it's genetic, because he's been dealing with a lot of these injuries since he's been a very young teenager in school, and he didn't participate in sports. You know, so he could be walking through an airport and all of a sudden his knee gives out. It's just, you know, how he's kind of put together, but he's made the best of it, and he's never used that as an excuse. So yeah, it was challenging. A lot of the time, the warm-ups would take at least 30 minutes before getting into weight training to activate muscles, to release muscles, to increase the range of motion or mobility, or to decrease the mobility of that muscle or that joint. So there's a lot of preparation that went into it. And the one thing that a lot of people don't understand is that sleep is number one. That is priority, because that helps your body to recover. If you're lacking in sleep, then now your body's going to be vulnerable to injury, vulnerable to sickness, or anything like that. You know, you're burning the candle at both ends otherwise. So prioritizing that really, really did help as well. But sometimes he's shooting for 15, 16, 18 hours, so you can't always have the amount of sleep that you wanted. So then we had to lighten the load, increase the intensity, increase the volume, and just get a traumatic experience out of that workout as opposed to throwing a lot of heavy weight onto the bar.
So let me understand this. When there's a film that comes along, do you and Hrithik sit together and discuss what the look needs to be,
Yeah.
how you'd like him to look on screen? What is the process like?
So I usually sit with Hrithik and I'll sit with the director to see exactly what they want to achieve, and then we'll build a plan from there. So if Hrithik needed to be a lot bigger than what he did, then we'd have a completely different plan, but he didn't. In a future movie, he may need to, so we'll have a completely different plan then. But it's very important that I speak with both him and the director, because I don't know if stunts are going to be involved. If there's a scene where, let's say it's a romantic scene, and he's going to have his top off, compared to an action scene where he's going to have his top off. So one will have to look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing with a nice flow to the physique, as opposed to more powerful fullness, separation and strength to that physique. So the look can change within the same movie as well.
And that entire change, how long does the change take then?
Sometimes it could be a week, you know, as little as a week. You know, so we would deplete the muscles of glycogen, of carbohydrates, pulling the carbs back a little bit, increase the cardio just to give it a little bit more of a flow, seductive, or then we will start eating a lot more and decreasing the cardio and the inflammation from the workouts to fill the muscles with glycogen, create some more separation, and withdraw some of the subcutaneous fluid.
Tell us, what is his regime like? What is a normal day in Hrithik's life when he's shooting with you, and he's working out with you look like?
Yeah, so for this, it wasn't as crazy as it has been in the past.
Okay.
So the cardio was much less. You know, he has become a little bit more metabolically active over the years. When he's got more muscle density, he's able to burn fat a little bit easier. So generally, the day would start early in the morning, dependent on what time he finished the day prior, and he'd have his breakfast, let that settle. And then about an hour to 90 minutes following that, he'd start his workout, and that would be a weights workout. This would happen 4 to 5 times a week. 5 times a week,
Okay.
he would do these workouts, weights workouts, 2 days off. And then that would be followed by some form of cardiovascular exercise. It could be outside, going for a jog on the beach. It could be doing the Stairmaster, it could be doing a bike, it could be agility work or HIIT work, so high intensity interval training, where he's doing kettlebells, battle ropes, sled drags, burpees, box jumps, all of that sort of stuff. So it changes up a little bit. You've got to keep it exciting as well to a certain degree. And that would usually last for about 30 minutes.
Okay.
And if needed, he'd do a double cardio. So he'd do a second 20-minute cardio later in the day, but we really didn't need too much on this program. But then on his non-training days, when he's not doing any weights workouts, then he will definitely do 2 cardio sessions.
Okay.
So that'd be a cardio workout in the morning and a cardio workout in the evening, probably about 30 minutes each.
All right.
And then as far as meals, he was eating 6 meals a day.
Oh, wow.
He always eats about 6 to 7 meals a day. When I first worked with him, it was probably about 7 to 8 to really speed up the metabolism. But this time it was about 5 meals and 1 protein shake, spaced within every 3 hours after waking up. Wake up, have his first meal. Within every 3 hours, then he would eat again, until he accumulated about 6 meals throughout the day.
We're talking about a man who has an 18 hours, 15 hours shift. When does he get time to sleep, and when does he wake up to do all of this?
Again, it all depends what time the shift starts and the shift finishes. But usually, as soon as he's finished, it's light out. He has to go to sleep straight away. So we will be mindful of a lot of artificial light exposure for a good 2 hours before bed, if possible. If he can't avoid the artificial light, he'd have to wear glasses that blocks out the artificial blue light blocking glasses, because the artificial light kind of mimics the blue spectrum that we get from the sun, that tells our brain that it's daylight. Right. So it's very difficult to get to sleep. So it's essential that he goes to sleep very, very quickly and into a deep sleep. So it's the quality of sleep is as important as the length of the sleep.
Are you also present at the shoot days when especially he has a topless shoot?
Yeah, not always. So if I'm, when we had these scenes here in India, yes, I was there present. When it was happening in Italy, his other trainer, Swapnil, was there. Okay. But he when we were in India as well, up towards the Himalayas, Swapnil was there as well. But I'm not always there. The vast majority of the time I am. It all depends on my schedule, my work commitments elsewhere around the world.
You have been part of various films that Hrithik has had an amazing look. Can you recollect a film that you thought he looked his best in?
Krish, probably. Is it Krish 3? Yeah, Krish 3.
Okay.
That was the best because I preferred that look because it was fuller, more muscular, more powerful. So it worked for both ways, for both the music video. I just liked that look because it looked more powerful.
Yeah.
And, I'm not going to say too much, but there's a look that's going to be coming up within the next year or so where he will be going for that kind of size and shape again.
The fuller size.
The fuller and more muscular size, yeah. So it was that look that was my preferred. And he was so dedicated. Like I remember he wasn't shooting at this time. This is preparing for the movie, because he came from a very bad place. He had back problems. He was very much overweight, but he was so dedicated. I remember we were in Dubai on New Year's Eve and everybody was trying to get him to drink and party and stay up late. He was in bed by 9:30 that night and we were on the beach doing our sprints the next morning about 6 a.m.
What about cheat days?
No cheat days. No cheat days. If we have a cheat day, it's generally clean food, but just much, much, much more of it. But he's got a chef that is very, very good. A lot of his food is very boring and bland. He eats the majority of his meals cold because we're out on set or something like that. A lot of people use that as an excuse, saying, I can't eat this, it needs to be warm. Most athletes and most people that are dedicated to their craft will eat their meals cold. It's the function that trumps over convenience. But when we do have like a cheat day, let's say the metabolism is slowed down a little bit, he's hit a plateau, or we can load up into a scene where we can have more carbohydrates, he usually just eats more of the same when it comes to the carbohydrates. So more rice, more oats, more potatoes, things like that.
So healthy fat.
Healthy carbohydrates,
healthy
and
carbs.
More, and we'll put some fats in there, maybe some avocado, some egg yolks and things like that, but it mostly comes from carbs.
Do you remember a look that took the longest and was the most challenging to achieve?
I would say this is probably the more challenging because we were trying to, obviously, we were training very, very hard, but we didn't want to look too muscular for this because, like I said, he needed to have a lot of agility, mobility for this. And because the shoot schedule was happening so long, sometimes it's very difficult for him to get to sleep or get enough sleep to ensure that he wasn't vulnerable to injuries. So trying to balance that act was probably the most difficult.
Now, there was an article that came out where it said that Hrithik Roshan pays Kris Gethin about 3 things: 7 lakhs a month, 25 lakhs a month, 30 lakhs a month. Would you like to confirm what the amount is?
What's that in dollars?
In dollars. I'll tell you in dollars. Around $8,000 to $36,000.
Wow, that's a big jump. That's a huge jump. I can't confine in that. Much like we have client confidentiality. Some people say, hey, film some shoots with Hrithik, training and pictures. I've got pictures and I've got footage, but I don't put it out unless my client puts it out or wants to put it out. So, I have some clients that, people don't even know that I train because of client confidentiality. So I have to adhere to that.
Now that you've been associated with the film industry and so many other celebrities like Hrithik, Vicky, Kaushal and many, many more, do you enjoy watching Bollywood films?
Depends what that Bollywood movie is. So, people know this, like I absolutely loved Vikram Vedha.
Oh, that was lovely.
That was a really, really good movie. I enjoyed that. And what was the other one that he played before that he was a magician? Guzarish.
Guzarish.
I really, really like that one. And the one that Vicky was just in right now, the military one.
Sam Bahadur.
Sam, yeah, really, really enjoyed. Those are the sort of movies that I really, really like. You know, really thought through, maybe not too much entertainment.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like to escape reality too much, but those are the movies that I really, really like.
Does Hrithik Roshan work out on his own movie playlist?
Oh, the music? Oh, for sure. 100%. Sometimes he'll allow me to play my music because he really wants to get amped up. So if we're going to be training extremely heavy that day and really intense and he feels good in his body and he's not having to worry about injury, he's like, yeah, let's put on some Corn, some Limp Bizkit, something heavy.
Yeah.
But some of the time he'll just listen to like a movie soundtrack, something classical, something very, very different.
That's great.
Hello everybody, this is Kris Gethin and you're watching me on Bollywood Hungama.